Kyle, what's the meanest thing you've ever said to a friend?
This is Auto Collabs.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to make you answer that on the
Well,
podcast.
no, I'll tell you what it wasn't something I said, but like basically I remember the moment where, because I was like a real scrawny dude growing up, like tiny, was 3 to 4 inches smaller than anybody in my grades, right? And I think it was like sophomore year, I went from like 5'9" to 6'1" in like a couple months, right? And dudes were used to picking on me, right? Because I was a little scrawny kid. I was quiet. I never really talked much, and dudes were used to picking on me. And I was playing basketball, and this dude just like full swipes my legs, right? Like very intentionally. Everybody's, oh, got him,
Oh, no.
And I just come up, all 6'1" of me that used to be smaller, now taller, and I just come and I just like get real ready to just light this guy up. And he was down on the ground a little bit. And I remember the like fear in this guy's face. And I didn't even need to hit him. I had
And
all
you're
the
like-
satisfaction in
and
the
then
world
he did
right
like,
there. So
that's what I thought. Honestly,
that's what I thought, bro.
Right.
So that's probably the meanest, like, quote unquote thing that I've done.
Oh, that's a good story.
There's my deep story.
We never really
for
know
you
how
guys.
we're going to open these shows, just so everyone else knows. Some one of us will just like flip some random question like that. And now we're into an episode of Auto Collabs.
There it is. Yep.
Are Canadians mean to one another, Michael?
He said sorry.
Sorry.
I would, Canadians have a rap for being very nice, but
Yes.
bro, they will be the first one to stab you in the back of the head the minute you turn around.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, not
mean,
for the Canadian in me, but like the Italian in me, I got rude words at the ready whenever you need them, bro.
Your internal dialogue in hand.
The self-control is on point.
That's
Oh,
great.
no.
Now, so now I'm trying to think about how we transition into today's guest.
We don't. You
We
just
do.
go straight
Well,
there.
because he's
No,
got a
there's gotta
background
be
in creative.
Speaking of being rude to people.
Yeah.
No.
Speaking of being the nicest guy we
There you
spoke to
go.
today on a podcast.
We don't know.
I'll see myself
Hey, look,
out.
we're talking to Jason Tropp over at CarCutter. We really hope you enjoy this conversation, and we promise it won't be quite as ridiculous as the intro today.
I don't know. Kyle promises.
All right, Jason Tropp, what's going on, buddy? Welcome to Auto Collabs.
Thanks, Michael. Really appreciate it, man.
Wait, where did you say you're from?
I'm working from the house. I'm up in Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine.
It's good this time of year. That's near
Which
Canada,
is a
Michael.
confusing thing, right?
Right.
Because
Most people, they think West Coast when you say Portland, so you always have to throw the Maine at the end, and they're like, oh, the opposite side
I
of the
have a
country.
feeling that I have a feeling just the whole atmosphere is a little different between the two.
I would say so, yeah.
except for still a lot of rain, a little
Still a
more
lot of
snow in
rain.
Maine.
Did you grow
Yeah.
up there? Like, what brought you to Portland, Maine?
No, I grew up my family's from New York. I grew up in Virginia, but I came to Maine probably a little over between 8 and 9 years ago, and it was for automotive. So I had an opportunity to come up and work for a New England auto group, and I just got lucky and was able to sort of land in Portland, Maine to do that job, which was super sweet.
What was the job?
So I came aboard as, it's kind of a funny story. I had asked to come aboard on this internal marketing team to be the creative director for this auto group.
Oh
But
my
actually-
gosh, say that again. That
So-
position exists in the industry? What is it? Internal
Whoa.
marketing team has a creative
internal
director?
marketing team, yeah. It was great. So it was like, so it was back in the day when Prime Motor Group was around, and they had when I came on board, it was like between 25 and 30 stores.
Yeah.
And during my time there, they sort of, expanded their portfolio, got up to 60 stores. And I did that for, the first 4 years I was in New England. So I was going down to Massachusetts, traveling all over, which was super cool. But yeah, we had this internal marketing team. Just so happened to be that it can function out of Maine because, marketing can happen from anywhere. And the home offices were down in Massachusetts. So, it's a 2-hour drive from Portland, not a big deal. But it was super cool. But that job kind of transitioned from a creative direction to really digital direction. So it was making sure all the websites worked, all the third-party integrations were firing, doing email marketing. You know,
I
we were
feel like
taking
that's the
everything from,
flow. I feel
yeah,
like
man.
that's just the flow. It's like, you know, we like the whole creative everything, but you should do some analytics, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
can
it
you
makes sense.
prove that it's like one day someone was like, can you prove that what Jason is doing is actually working? And he was like, well, I'll try,
And you're
you
like, but
know?
look
And
at the
then,
kerning on that font.
Be like, oh, you should
How
see
could that
these
not be
reports.
working? Yeah.
No,
oh
it
no.
was really great. We had a whole team of, internal team. And I think the coolest part about this job is just it is, as long as you're not going to say no to something, there's always an opportunity to learn. And so that job really sort of launched me further into the automotive space because it's just you're going deep and you're going deep really fast to make heads or tails of everything, and you realize just how interconnected it all is. And that really plays sort of into the whole mindset of like, what is automotive marketing today? It's not one thing. There's not one answer. It's figuring out
I'm
how the whole
still
puzzle
stuck
comes together.
on, I got to be honest with you. I'm still stuck on the fact that you were like, I moved to Maine for automotive and then drove 2 hours south.
It wasn't
I
every
still
day.
I can't get that out of my like. I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
don't think that actually works that way.
No. So
Was it like an acquisition or something like that? Is that what it
So there's
is?
stores in Maine. So they had a whole collection of stores in southern Maine,
Okay.
and then they
Yeah.
had stores in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. So the corporate offices were down in Massachusetts. So I'd go down a couple times a month, stay for like a night or
Got
two,
it.
kind of knock some stuff out. But then the majority of my team for the marketing side was actually located in Maine. So we kind of had this split office, and it was early days remote work essentially, but we had space above one of the dealerships. So we sort of had a little microcosm of marketing up there. And then we would just sort of, do early Zoom with a team down in Massachusetts. If it was something that needed more hands on, just shoot down there for the day. Stay 2 days if you need to.
Yeah.
It was good.
Let me
So-
ask you this. I'm dying to ask you this. From your vantage point, working in a group, working in stores, what do you think it is that makes dealers believe that marketing will solve all of the world's problems?
I
You know
think,
what I mean? 'Cause it's like,
yeah.
sales are down, marketing's fault. Salespeople can't
Michael, I
close.
feel like you got some pain in that
There is.
question.
She's like,
Yeah.
sales are down, marketing's fault,
It is,
sales
dude.
are up,
That's the
sales
thing.
team's fault, right?
My thing back in the day was like, okay, so like dealer has an argument with their spouse the night before, comes in huffing and puffing, and the marketing team's on the chopping block.
I think it's one of
As
those
the
things
first
like,
one.
I think it's kind of like last man in, first man out a little bit. Marketing isn't necessarily thought of as a frontline effort. It's sort of brought into the business as it matures. It's like, oh, yeah, we should be paying more attention to marketing. Let's internalize this. We want more control. But I think it's also, there's less understanding about it than a lot of the other operations because sales managers, parts managers, service managers, those are all very tangible things that are happening in front of you every day. The marketing stuff is more ethereal in that sense because it's digital. It's a lot of, what's happening with the algorithm is what
But
we're
everybody
doing.
has an opinion on it.
Everybody has an opinion on it because we all are consumers. We're all just seeing this all the time. So it's really easy to say, hey, I have an opinion. It's like, hey, did you like that movie last weekend? Well, let me tell you how I would have shot that movie.
Right.
There's always
Exactly.
going to be the 2 cents of I have taste and I want to express that. And sometimes it comes across as I have ideas for marketing. And sometimes those ideas are really worthwhile. And sometimes those ideas just there are ideas that have been tested and tried and they don't necessarily make sense. And I think there's also, again, the experience of maybe one market's different than others. So you've got, the movement in the automotive space where you go from a small store, domestic, to a high line. You come from an outside market to a major market. Those marketing things, there are some truths that play through, but then there are also the nuances of, what works here. And you have to figure that out. So I think everybody wants to contribute is kind of what that comes down to. But the chopping
and
block,
I mean,
oof.
I don't know if you ever experienced this, but it like the chopping block is also related at some level to like what did you do today? Right?
Yeah.
Is
Right.
how did you and your team, because I think there's a lot of marketers that kind of like listen and they're trying to figure out how do
Yeah.
I prove my worth,
know-
prove my value, like the things that I'm asking for, the things that I'm doing, the things that I'm responding to actually have like value to the business today, not just, because every marketer loves to say like, "Oh, I'm building brand, I'm building a big thing,
Mhm.
it's coming soon," right? And that there's the realities, but there's the proof in the like, I sold a
Right.
car today. There's a X on the board because I did some level of work, and that X is harder to find sometimes in the
Big
marketing
time.
persona.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the forever challenge, right? Is sort of marrying what's happening in marketing to, is it having an effect on the sales floor? And there's so many layers between, we put a marketing messaging out there and someone signing the paperwork.
Mhm.
That is a journey. I think that, there's a couple things marketers can do. I think one is, it's certainly more work, but I think it's part of the job, is if you are in-house marketing, and really if you're any marketer, it doesn't have to be in-house, but if you're marketing for a client, whether it's internal or external, not only you're doing that job of making your marketing perform, you also have to do the secondary job of marketing the work that you're doing internally, right? So just because you're doing the job doesn't mean that anybody knows you're doing the job. They don't know the work or the effort or sort of the effect. You might be saying, hey, we have our monthly meeting, here's the reports. That's kind of baseline helpful. I had those standard operations with a lot of the different website providers I use, the advertising agencies we use. We get those sort of ongoing reports. But it was the consistent conversations, the team going out of their way to sort of paint the picture of, here's how it all comes together until we get to that report. Instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to grind and then here's the report at the end of the month. I think being able to sort of build that internal marketing message of the value of marketing and how everyone is involved in that and how it kind of all ties back, because we put marketing in this bucket of ad spend, creative. And that's true. That's a huge part of it. But the other part is, what is happening at the store? What is the attitude at the store? What is the energy going into sort of living the messaging that you're putting into your marketing, right?
Mhm.
Is that all coming together? And I
Come
think
on now.
you guys have to
But you
have
obviously
all that there.
understand the
I'm
entire
enraged.
ecosystem, right? Like every
Right.
marketer is like, they have their waving their hanky. They're like, this guy knows me, right? He
Yeah.
knows me. You made a jump though from dealer marketing to industry partner side.
I
How
did.
did that come about?
So it's really interesting. So my whole journey in a nutshell was, I actually started in automotive on the agency side. So I kind of saw how the agency life played out,
Ah,
supporting dealers in like major markets and small
this all
markets.
makes sense now.
hmm And then I took a hiatus, worked for a nonprofit for a couple of years, but then I got the calling card to be like, hey, we've got some opportunities in New England Auto Group. So I jumped into that. And after that, that was, like I said, the digital director stuff, really making sure the integrations were working. From there, went to a smaller group in New England where it was handling the marketing fully, so budgets, etc. But when I was at my last group, we were really looking for, well, let me back up. In all my reporting and everything that we were doing, it was kind of like, I'm turning all the right levers. I'm allocating the funds where it makes sense. We've got, smart messaging. What can we do where things breaking down? Like, why are my ad dollars not performing to the level I think they should be? And one of the things we identified is that our inventory has a heavy effect on that advertising, which should be a no-brainer. But it's not simply the inventory itself; it is taking photos of the cars. So when I was there, I was really looking for a situation where we could improve the photo situation, get those on the website, improve the quality, to then improve the performance of all our ad dollars, hitting those third-party marketplaces, hitting our retargeting ads. Whenever we brought traffic back to the website, having that VDP be a clean and solid experience. And the thing is, we all shop online; it's all visual. So if you're not prioritizing visualizing your product, you're sort of diminishing your ad dollars all downstream when it comes to merchandising and sort of re-advertising that inventory online.
Mhm.
So I, came across CarCutter as a solution for that, and I had a couple Highline stores, and we were shooting at different places, and we cross-shared that inventory. So we have mixed inventory showing up online. We wanted to make it look like it's one collection, not like, hey, this car is being treated differently than this car, or they appear that they may be in different locations. And really, for the customer, it doesn't matter because we'll bring the car to you.
Mhm.
Sure.
And this turned out to be a tool that was really beneficial for some of the problems I was running into. And I liked it so much. I was talking to the team, and at that point in time, you guys know Daniel. I was talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, man, it's great. Keep your eyes out. We're definitely growing and making moves in the U.S." And so I was like, "Yeah, I think this is awesome." So there's an opportunity, and I put my hat in the ring, and now here I am. So it's really cool
Very
because
cool.
I've seen the
Well,
benefits of using it as a dealer, and
this
now I get
is
to talk about it.
this is one thing that like
Right.
typically the marketing persona like kind of gets this, you know what, just like make sure the cars sell. We'll take care of
Mhm.
the inventory. We'll take care of the cars, like as a sales management staff or as a management staff, as an owner operator, whoever's managing specifically the used cars. And it's kind of like, man, boss, you had 100 less cars last month than what you normally do.
You
Yep.
And
don't think that might have something to do with it, could it
maybe that,
possibly? And they're
or
all
Yeah.
$50,000 SUVs.
right.
hmm
So, But then
the
also,
marketing.
and
Yeah.
I say this all the time, like this is the biggest, like this is the hardest thing for me to reconcile as a marketer, and especially when I was at a dealership group, is that it is so tied to merchandising, right?
Mhm.
What inventory you have in and what inventory is merchandise. You hear these people like coming off reducing ad spend on dig ad and reducing spend on third party marketplaces, and you go look at their inventory and it's just tight, right? They have the
Oh
right
yeah.
cars, the right price, the right pictures, the right merchandising, and they're still selling cars. Well,
Mhm.
because like people have to buy cars, and if they're merchandised well, now you can layer onto that great brand, great advertising, great digital strategy. But if you don't have the cars merchandised well, like you're you're done at square one. And I
Mhm.
Well,
think that that's what you're pointing out is like, hey, look, we went back and realized we weren't handling square one right, and so all of our efficiency downstream that we could have gained was just lost, right?
100%. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, when I was with Prime, a big part of my job was traveling to all these stores. We had set up sort of like best practices for how to photograph, how to merchandise your cars, how to use the systems that the stores were putting those cars into, and it was a heavy lift. And trying to train everyone to do that is a monumental task. But when everyone starts doing
Mhm.
it, there's such a power and consistency in prioritizing that stuff. And unfortunately, I think like the industry sort of treats, this might be a broad statement, but it's been my experience that getting photos of cars is sort of considered a low priority in a lot of places because there's so many bigger issues that you have to tackle at the store.
Mhm.
But again, it's just
Wild.
sort of, it's your merchandise. Everyone starts online. So at the end of the day, your digital store is store number one before anybody sets foot in your actual store where the actual cars are. So what do you do to get them there? So it's always been a
You know,
challenge, and I think
I
it's
I tell this
industry
story,
wide.
and I'll continue to back you up on this because like I agree. I think it is well, one, getting cars frontline ready, it has, like, everyone wants to say we get our cars frontline ready in 72 hours, right? But the reality is that just
Mhm.
doesn't happen in broad stroke across the industry. I had a buddy probably 8 or 9 years ago that went to church with him, and I found out that his entire job is to take photos of shoes for uh like a bunch of different marketplaces that are like department stores, right? And literally they start photographing prototypes of shoes a year before the release so that they can get approved in time for the merchandising effort,
Wow.
right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like, so that's the level of care that these merchandisers that are merchandising like 50 to $200 pair of shoes,
Items,
that
commodity.
they
Mm.
Yeah.
have a dedicated warehouse in Nashville full of 5 photographers only thinking about how these things are photographed and edited, right?
So
For
cool.
$200 shoes,
Yeah.
right? And we're out here like, yeah, just throw it there against the back lot. It'll
Throw it
be
in the wash
fine.
bay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know the
So
pain.
yeah, we know the pain.
You know, just thinking about like all the different photo experiences in automotive and like just evaluating my personal behaviors because I'm kind of in the market for a car. Like my family wagon, just it's like
Oh, brave.
103,000 miles on it. I'm like, do I want to get out of it before something expensive breaks? Because there's nothing worse than something expensive
Announcing
breaking.
it on the pod, dude.
That
You know?
is
Yeah.
announcing it on the
People,
pod. You're about to get DMs like, I can sell you a Kia Telluride.
it's
Just
what
right.
what can you pay for my Lincoln Navigator though? That's
There
the
you
real question.
Mm.
It's all about the trade.
Accepting
Is what you
bids.
say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about the appraisal. There
No,
it
but
is,
the reality is I know the difference. Like I know the tools that are out there. I know, and I am still staggeringly shocked because I'm looking to replace the Navigator. We're maybe looking at another Navigator. They haven't really changed anything. So it's kind of like a bummer to just buy a newer version of what you already have. So the Escalators or like a Suburban are the only like vehicles big enough to fit all my family and all the stuff. And they're not cheap cars. And I can't believe how bad some of the photos are.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's
Like,
everywhere.
I
It's
can't believe
like,
it. It's a Cadillac selling like an $80,000 used car. And like, I'm like, I can't believe anybody buys this, but they must.
Oh
But
man.
just like,
yeah.
I don't
See, now
usually interact as
you
a
got me
consumer,
all in a
right? Only
heart
once
issue
every
place
3 or
here.
4 years. I know. I know.
Yeah, man.
But then there's a part of it too where it's like, you know what? I might actually be able to get a better deal because they're so bad at photos. Right? Like,
Well, I mean,
this
that's
is a
the
good,
thing.
this
You
is
know?
a good, this is a good truck and no one knows it. Oh yeah. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
He's like, so what I was thinking
You
is
see
you
this
guys
right
suck
here?
so
This
bad
is
at photos.
Terrible photo. Terrible photo. Yeah, but the car's ready. This photo is disgusting. It's a trash can. Right? I'm not paying that.
And they'll be like, but it was enough to get you sitting in front of me having this
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See,
Yeah, no,
Cirillo's
Yes,
been in
this
the dealership
he's like,
before.
yes, this conversation where you're about to discount this vehicle. no, but
That's
really,
amazing.
like, part of me thinks that at some point, like, I'm gonna find like a gem because they just took it, took the photos like trash. And I'm like, it's actually a nicer car. I don't know. Just a little
You might.
anecdotal
Fingers crossed.
mentality. But when I go through, I cannot believe that some pictures are still so bad. So
Yeah, no,
take it for what it's worth.
wow.
And if you want to DM me what you think the Navigator's worth, just, I won't give you any more information on it.
There you go. That's awesome. Well, hey, Jason, we've thoroughly enjoyed hanging out with you. Love your journey, and just the passion that for you to go from adopting a technology to being a part of the technology's growth is a really, really unique story, and I think something that a lot of people can get sticky to. We've had a ton of laughs and always enjoy that one. So, Jason, thanks for joining us today on Auto
Yes.
Collabs.
Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I have to say, he's probably one of the nicest guys we've talked to in a really long time.
We nailed it. We got that right off the bat. He was super. He was like, just so kind about the disposition of being. I mean,
I know.
like, if I know any marketer that's been through his thing, like, there's some anger.
You're
somewhere
yelling
deep in
at
there,
the
and he's just
screen
like,
as he's bringing some of these wounds up.
it's what's it called? Like when you're so angry, you don't have words, you just make sounds, like just getting that email from your owner and then you're just like, what
wild.
happens.
I've seen a bunch of stories in auto where people, get a product, like they're the champion of a product into a store or a group, and then get so caught up in its efficiency and effectiveness that they're like, I have to go help build that.
Mhm.
And just that story alone is really, really cool to me to see someone go so caught up in the effectiveness of a thing that they brought in and championed that they said, yep, that's the thing that I want to go be a part of to grow. It means that there was
They
a
really
lot of
believe in it.
efficiency. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they really believe in it.
I also want to add, like, it's through that episode, we talk about like the friction in the relationship and the expectations, and half of it's joking, half of it's serious though. And we can say that the situations the three of us have a lot of inside insight into dealer groups all across the country and marketing departments, how they operate. And the very best ones we see the marketers have a seat at the table, at the strategy table.
That's right.
And are seen as a very strategic partner in sales and fixed ops and service, all the way across the board in community involvement. And when that is the case, we can't advocate for that enough, because in all the best scenarios, the marketer has a seat at the strategy table. And so I think it's important to say that and remind people of that, because it's easy to get caught up in the velocity of the game and forget that the person who is maybe easy to blame sometimes, or maybe on the outskirts, or like the person that makes the creative stuff, or that you call when you need to reset your password, because they're usually pretty good with tech as well. That the best
so
dealers
right.
in the country have them at the strategy table. So I don't know, maybe that moves the needle a little bit too.
I mean, also just on the merchandising side of things, transitioning from that to just the practicality of speed to market.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how often I know all three of us have experienced situations where the dealer has 30 units that haven't been reconned yet. They're still sitting out back. They haven't been merchandised. They're not ready to go. And the real impact of what that's costing them per day not being online and marketed right. And just your experience of, It's 2024 and we're still not taking good pictures. Like just at its most foundational level, a $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 vehicle that we were, you know, our human nature is that we're always looking for what's the big pie in the sky fix. And most often it's the small and simple things that compound that make the greatest effect. Like
It's just
take
merchandise
flipping
your cars.
pictures.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's not a way to wrap up the show. I don't know what is. On behalf of Kyle Mountsier, Michael Cirillo, and myself, thanks for joining us and spending some time with us at Auto Collabs. Is it at Auto Collabs? Listening to
On.
I don't know. Nathan's waving his hands. I botched that. Thanks for being here.
Auto Collabs. Welcome to Auto Collabs. Why are we recording?
Are we rolling yet?